Hi, welcome to, I don't know what I'm calling this yet, but this is my new show. And I've got Annebet here with me, who's an amazing friend of mine. I've worked with her for years. She's an incredible stylist. And if you have ever fantasized or dreamt about working in the fashion industry and being a cool stylist in New York, this is the girl that you fantasize about being about or being like. And so I'm excited to introduce you to her, and we're excited to hear from her today. Annabette, hi. Thanks for being here.
Aw, Dave, thanks. So happy to be here.
I love it. How do you like my introduction?
That was very sweet. Very, very lovely.
It's totally true. You're one of the best, actually. I've always loved working with you.
Thank you so much. That's lovely.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you're from.
I am from Austin, Texas, although I have been in New York 19 years. I moved for an internship at Nylon Magazine before I graduated college and then just never left. My internship coordinator became a friend of mine, and I ended up getting a job at Vogue with Andre Leontali, and I was like the famed closet girl for a long time. And then I left and went into being an editor and on to a million other things, and never looked back. So I think New York is, I'm not from here, but I feel like I'm from here. So
Yeah, you're a New Yorker for sure. It's
yeah,
been years. How many years did you say it was?
19, August 15th was 19 years. So
God, that's crazy. I can't
yeah,
believe that.
I know it
Man,
goes so fast. Like I can't believe that either. So
I met you in the Nylon days 19 years ago.
yeah, I was a baby and I've lived like 15 different lives since then. So I know, but you've stuck with me. You've been with me the whole time.
Totally, absolutely. And it's funny because you have worn a lot of hats. I mean, irony aside, but you have really done a lot of different things within this industry, and it's been incredible actually watching your growth.
Yeah,
Tell us a little about some of the favorites or whatever.
I think that being well, maybe not so much back then, but I think being like well-rounded and really knowing all aspects of your craft, like whether you're into actually being a stylist, and that could entail like how garments are made, how the inspiration is created, all the way through shooting and advertising and paid advertising and like all that other stuff. So for me, I was just always curious and a little bit scattered about exactly what part of the industry I loved, so I learned all of them and did all of them. And I think that made me a better stylist, and I am largely a creative director now, and I think knowing all aspects, it makes me a better creative director. I'm not someone who's just worked for a big company and like sat behind a desk and kind of like um, I didn't go to school for that profession. I literally learned by hustling and by like meeting these artists and working with these artists. So I feel like you know that's sort of my education is more like street education, more of like the hustle, comes from like doing rather than like sitting around learning about it. So yeah, I've done a million different things. I have designed, produced, manufactured, shipped, sold my own line a couple of times in the men's space and in the women's space. I've been a magazine editor, I have sat front row at shows, I have written stories, I have been a stylist mainly for a large portion of the time, working on big ad campaigns and working with celebrities. I do a little red carpet, not a lot. And then my main love is like editorial styling, which out of all of them, it pays nothing, but it's my favorite thing that I do, which Dave, that's where we work largely on
Yeah,
things together. So yeah, I have a healthy background. Maybe I'm just like,
it's
just
great
can't
though.
make up my mind. I don't know.
No, I think that's wonderful. I feel like we are all entering a space that you've already been living in for a while now. Like a lot of people now understand that you can't just have one thing. You're not doing the one thing and just writing that out. You
Right.
have to be versatile and move in a lot of different spaces. And you've been doing that for as long as I've known you.
Right. It used to be very frowned upon. Like I've
Yeah.
spent many, many years fighting the fact that I do wear a lot of hats and that I do know a lot about a lot of different areas of the business. And people, agents, I wasn't necessarily very appealing to agents because I've always had something else going on. So I've never really given my full attention to like just styling or something like that. So for a long time, I wasn't very appealing. So I just, again, that's where the hustle came in, just like the wheeling and dealing to try and work and get jobs and do things like that. And then, now I think that people who have spent their career learning all aspects of what they are, I think that we are becoming more coveted just because we can do more than one thing, and we have the ability to sort of like pull things together faster, and we have the understanding of how things work. And on the production side, like producing is everything just becomes a little bit easier when you have a smaller crew and you have people that kind of like can do multiple tasks on set. So I think it's starting to like work in my favor, but I mean, so many years, like people are just like, why can't you just pick one thing? And but
It's true. It's true. I think it has worked out. And so now, like you said, as you've grown into your current role, you have a company called True State Management that is
uh,
basically your baby.
yeah, True State Creative. So I started this because, largely in and out of my 19 years, I've been freelance a large portion of it. And, I love to like be on set with like a grouping of like freelance creatives and artists that are at the top of their game and that like come from all over and aren't necessarily like part of an agency or something like that. So when you're shooting with money, like big projects, big video, big things like that, you're usually using an agency, and then an agency has people that are on staff. So you're using the art director. A lot of times you're using a photographer that's on contract. You're using like, hair and makeup that might be on contract. You're using people like that. So a client is walking in and getting whatever that agency whoever that agency is partnered with. So with my company, you can come in and like we crowdsource our talent from 19 years of my experience, 19 years of my photographers experience, like just all of our connections. And so we sort of like support the people that we have used and are extraordinarily talented and are reliable, and we know that can turn out the product that the client wants. So we do it. The positive thing for the client on the opposite end of it is you don't get that hand holding all the time that the agency gives you. Like you
Mhm.
don't get ushered into a separate room with like a monitor, whatever. You are a little bit more involved in what we're doing, but we can produce like, a $500,000 shoot for like $200,000. So not only are we cheaper, we're more efficient, and the product that we're creating is like the top tier product. The last big job that I worked on was for the NBA, and they hired us because we were a little bit less expensive. They just couldn't continue on with the agency they were using to create the amount of content they wanted. And we supported something like 26 freelancers from like 7 different states, and we all convened in Vegas, and like we did this amazing project for them. And it was just awesome. The like level of content that we produce is like mind blowing when you get like the best videographer from LA, the best DP from like, Santa Monica, like the best hair and makeup person like that flies in from New York, the best prop stylist from San Francisco. Like it just really is kind of cool. And you get a really lovely vibe on set because everybody wants to be there, loves the project, loves what you're doing. So that's kind of the difference with us, and that's where I've landed, and that's where everything that I'm doing now is like sort of like living. And again, it's a little bit of a different way of thinking. It's a different way of like clients have to get used to it and the whole thing, but it seems to be going well now. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Congratulations. And it's true. I know what you mean. Like you've done those jobs. We've all done those jobs where you can see there's everywhere you turn, there's so much money clearly being spent. Like the clients have a little tent city that they have built up,
yeah,
and they're all sitting inexplicably. There's 15 people from their offices that aren't doing anything, that are all watching a monitor.
it's really
And
crazy. Yeah,
yeah, it's really crazy. And you just realize, God, there is so much money here. I would rather that money was in my pocket than on 15, you know what I mean? People just
I
who shouldn't
mean,
even be
yeah, no, it's true. Like I would rather that money be in an artist's pocket that is truly worthy of like working on a really high level project. And I'd also rather that that client doesn't spend that much money so that they come back and we do more content for them and we, you know, do more jobs and they can get more, because everybody now just wants more and more and more. So, you know, as like spending $50,000 on like a photographer that you know his name because he's been in like, you know, he shot the cover of Vogue, or because he's like the next biggest thing, like we're finding that clients are more into the quality of the work and like the content level at what you produce versus like hiring, you know, like a David Sims for $50,000 a day, which is true. And that's how a lot of times agencies will lure clients in, like, oh, we're going to get this photographer and his big name. And like, when really the people that are at the agency don't 100% know.
Yeah.
Or the clients don't always 100% know. So it's like, you know, we have that balance. Like some people are going to go super flashy, but then again, sometimes like maybe we can lure David Sims in too, because the project is so amazing and we all kind of like, you know, come together for it. So it's like just a balance you have to walk. There's like pros and cons for both, but I do think it's a way, especially after what's just gone on, that like people are going to start to work just because everybody wants more for less. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's good for me. It makes me feel good because I'm very passionate about, you know, supporting freelancers and supporting artists. And I just think that they're the best. So it's kind of like a win-win for everyone who chooses to like work with us, for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of, you touched on it a little bit, everything that has come to pass in this last year and where we are now.
Right.
How are you, like now we're all building back, how are you finding the market? How are you finding your footing? And what are you doing to keep yourself moving forward?
I put a lot of work into my own company just because I I feel like there's a million different things I can do to grow it. But when I'm working, like I don't have a lot of time to put into it. So I've been nurturing that for sure. You know, website, relationships, like, you know, all the SEO, email drips, like all of that kind of stuff, just preparing for the next phase. I have had a few Zoom styling sessions and a few Zoom shoots and things like that, which has been interesting. And then I had one big client like that when things opened up. You worked on this job with me. Like we ended up going out east
Oh,
and,
that's
you
fun.
know, shooting. Yeah, it was really weird. Like everybody was very separated and it was a pretty small crew.
Yeah.
I think it was everyone's first night spending the night in a hotel. But
True. I hadn't spent that hotel since
I had,
end of
I
March. Yes, since March. Yeah. We were all like nervous.
hadn't even really been out of the city. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It was nice, but it went well. So many safety precautions, but it was great. We had like a good shoot. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I'm just trying to like, you know, not, not like get through the days, but like get through the days and at least feel slightly productive on the days that I'm not working. Cause, you know, motivation has been like the hardest thing. You know, when you wake up and it's like Groundhog Day and, you know, you kind of have to force yourself, especially if you work for yourself, you just force yourself to sort of like, you know, sit down and do some work and, you know,
Yeah. That is the thing, isn't it? Because for a while there, it did feel like you'd wake up and be like, is it Tuesday? I don't know what's going on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was, you know, very motivating at the beginning. I was like, oh my gosh, so much free time. I have a list. Like, I mean, I got so much done that first month and a half. And then all of a sudden it just hit and you're like, wait a minute, this is not going to end. Like, this is not
Yeah.
what we all thought it was going to be. So,
Yeah, totally. It was really cute in the beginning when we were like, "Oh, and we'll see you in a month or two. They'll sort it out."
yeah, like I'm going to learn to cook and I'm going to like send out a MailChimp and I'm going to like,
It's gonna be
you know,
great.
finally build that like about page on my website. Like, I was like, yes. Whew. That didn't last very long. Like
No,
maybe a month and a half,
I
maybe.
know. I got up just enough, like to go like to clean out a couple of rooms and repaint some rooms, and that was basically it. Then I was
Yeah,
like, "Now what?"
I know.
Yeah, it is true. It is vastly different. I have to say, it's so funny. But now that this is, and I hate using the term our new normal, or
I know.
it's so irritating.
I know.
It's so annoying. But truthfully, this is it for the foreseeable future. It seems like. I mean, I have clients who've I've had Zoom meetings recently and spoken to about if things open up, this is the direction we want to go. If they don't, these are some other options. Like I feel
Right.
like that is really, I think, how everyone's proceeding, right? Under the
Right.
assumption that it may not open fully.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I don't shoot like with clients like for ecom or anything like that, like steady.
Hmm.
So I don't have really a gauge of like a client prior and a client after that's like sort of,
Right.
that I shot with regularly, like how they're developing new plans and doing whatever. I work with like Bustle and Elite Daily and that like Bulldog Media a lot. And, they have just been, no matter what, doing everything on Zoom. And they're creating content and they're doing things that are great. And there's no plan that I know of, like with working with them, that like they're going to change that anytime soon. I don't know if they're going into the office or not, but I'm really curious to see how everybody handles it, because things are starting to open, especially with like, the restaurants kind of opening back up and the gyms opening back up. I think people are going to get a mentality that like sort of we're becoming a little bit more normal.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how everybody starts to handle all this and like, I don't know, start shooting again. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
Normal-ish. It's true. I just
Yeah.
did something. I did a couple of new, picked up a couple of new clients recently and shot, and it felt semi-normal-ish with the exception of the face shields and the masks and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But it feels, honestly, I have no problem doing those things or taking whatever precautions are necessary because I feel like
Yeah.
it's for safety and I'm all for that. Whatever needs to
Definitely.
happen. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no issue with that either. We had a shoot like a week and a half ago for one of my private clients, and we like True State was actually photographing it from the other side, like we were documenting it.
Hmm.
And we had like a full conversation with our clients, like, are you okay if we don't wear masks? Like, we've both been tested, myself and the photographer. And it was like a full conversation. So we were the only four people on set. We were in a space that we had rented, and um, just because we were documenting it, we didn't want to have them on because we didn't
Hmm.
want to have it in the photographs, but everybody else in the photographs has them on. Like, it's
Yeah.
very much like a moment. But yeah, it's like full, you have to, every person you work with, every model you have to have conversations with, you have to wear your mask all day long, or you have to make prior arrangements. You have to like, nobody can be out of the state for 14 days. That's the crazy part with the models. And
Yeah.
I've had to use other assistants because my assistants have traveled, and like I can't legally have them on set. It's wild. Like,
Isn't that funny? It's interesting. I heard about a makeup artist who, for some dumb reason, photographed himself flying to New York to work as a local, and they found out and kicked him off the job.
yeah,
Can you imagine? Oh, I would be so embarrassed and mad. But
yeah,
also, just don't
just
record yourself. It's so stupid.
yeah,
It
just
was
don't
so
do
dumb.
that.
Sorry, that was a little bit of tea for the for this.
Yeah, it's like it really is like legit. Like it's a real thing. Like you can't,
Yeah, yeah.
can't
No, you
mess
have to be
around with
careful.
that.
So true. So tell us, what are you expecting moving forward? How are you? What do you see coming down the pike? What's new for True State or for yourself?
Um, it's a very good question, David.
Thanks.
Um, well, True State has a couple of different components. We have a photo component that we, create photo shoots for entrepreneurs and for business owners. So we are going to start pushing that a little bit more. There's a product line coming out. There's, my regular clients, like we're, still trying to like pitch a few big clients, like because video and all of that is really what I like love to do, what the company is really good at. So we're sort of doing all that, and then just styling. Like I still get picked up to style all the time. I have a big client who's releasing an album. We have like an album shoot to do in the next few months. She was supposed to be on tour right now, so that's a little heartbreaking, but
Yeah.
we're going to go ahead and move forward with that. And then, I have a couple of other clients that have things that are supposed to be happening, but you just can't plan anything around it now. So I'm just like letting the universe kind of like take care of everything. And as things come up, I'm just going to say yes, and we'll move forward that way. Like it's so out of my control that, uh, you know,
Yeah.
just have to sit back and relax and just like enjoy it as it comes.
Yeah, that's smart actually. I like that. You
Yeah.
can't get too bent out of shape over things you can't control.
No, and like, I actually did a post yesterday, like on Instagram. It's the first post I've done in months because I just couldn't, with everything going on in the world, like it just didn't feel appropriate for me to like, post anything. But my personal feeling, it just wasn't inspired to do that. But I do feel invigorated. Maybe the weather's changing. Maybe I do feel like, fall's coming. Like I feel excited for the new um, way our industry will hopefully be better and will hopefully, move forward.
Hmm.
But yeah, I did a post just like, I'm never going to take another shoot for granted because what it's like when you're doing the grind and you're working all the time and maybe
Yeah.
you're not on set with your friends. Maybe you don't love the job, maybe whatever. And like, there's days you go to, work just like any other job and you're like, oh God, is it like, are we done shooting yet? And
Totally.
I
Yeah, sliding over like, how many outfits are left? Can we
I
keep
know that's the question that I get all the time. You like pull me aside, not you. I'm just saying like
I
everyone on
ask
set
it
pulls
all
me
the
aside. They're like, how many looks do we have left? And I'm like, oh, like 7.
time.
But yeah, like I'm just not going to take it for granted anymore because I do feel like they'll be a little bit fewer and far between. And, I don't know. I just love being on set. So I feel,
Same.
yeah,
I feel
I
the
feel
same
like
way. Yeah,
it's
and I
good
feel
for
like I
us.
was traveling. I was on a job. This is going to sound wildly obnoxious, but you know what those jobs are like. They're not fabulous. But I felt like I was on a beach about once a month, and now I'm not, and it's really bumming me out.
I know
It became the norm and became our life, you know?
the traveling thing is like crazy. I think this is the longest I've ever gone in my entire career without being on an airplane.
Yeah,
Like,
same,
and
same.
it, ugh, I miss, you know what's so funny? I hated the process, packing, getting up early, going to security, like getting on the plane, flying, getting off, getting all my bags. Cause normally, like, if I'm traveling for a job, I have like 5 trunks or something, like hauling things, like
Yeah,
getting cars, your car's always late, there's the driver's not there, like always all this whole process that
yeah.
almost always goes that way. And now I'm just like, I would give anything
To be that, yeah.
to do
Standing
that
at the end of
again.
a
Like,
carny list.
I know, I know,
That
but
is so funny. So, given the way things are and how the business is, what words of advice would you give to either people who are in it to hang in there, I guess, or people who are aspiring to be like you, to do what you do?
you can do like it's so different than when I was coming up. Like when I was coming up almost 20 years ago, you had to work for someone, you had to assist someone, you had to have that in like you being in a magazine was like the goal, I think, for most people in the beginning, just because of the access that having a magazine attached to you gives you and like allowing you to be on set with the right people and learn the right way and like the whole thing. Now, like, I don't know, like I would just order some clothes online that you think are cool and like take a camera out and just shoot your friends. Like, I'm most inspired constantly by like that era in the 90s where, like David Sorrenti was like 18 and shooting his friends. And like, there's a lot of photographers now that are doing it as well. But like
Mhm.
this like moment photographer or like this moment photography that like existed that's like very beautiful and free and like that's very of the moment right now. So like if you can develop a style and maybe you have a friend that's a photographer, maybe you can do it yourself, if you have a cool crew or you have whatever, like just get everybody dressed and sort of go out and do it. And like even if you live in not a metropolitan area, like if you've got these like crews or cliques or you have interesting people around you, like it's very easy to just to team up with someone and just sort of like start shooting and like develop your look. It takes a very long time to develop your look. Like I'm definitely known for a specific style of styling and creative directing, and it's a little street, it's a little like hustler, it's very organic, it's not overstyled. And that was a style that I've been in love with my entire career, but developing that and knowing how to do it, knowing what I liked, knowing the types of photographers I liked, like that kind of stuff. It's just trial and error. So
Mhm.
the more you shoot, the better you're gonna become. And just because you're styling photographs or shooting photographs or directing photographs or videos, like, doesn't mean that you have to show anyone. So I don't know. When I started, I would pull clothes out of the closet every single weekend. I would shoot with anybody that said yes. Like, I think you just have to go and like hustle and hustle and hustle and just create that style, because once you have that and you feel confident in that and you feel like it represents who you are, then you can start emailing people. That's the other thing. There's no more like go sees anymore. Like, you don't have to go and see art
Oh,
directors. You don't have to send your book. You don't have to do any of that. And you can find almost, with a little bit of like, detective work, you can find almost anyone's email and like email art directors, email and be like, hey, because on the other end of it, they're not going to know you're young or old or inexperienced or whatever. If you have this beautiful shield of work in front of you, then, that's like incredible. Something that I didn't have, that you didn't have. Like,
yeah.
so, I used to walk in and people would be like, you're far too young. Like, I would be judged on my age, or the fact that I was female or whatever for like a very, very long time. But, now, like, if I throw my work out there, people have no idea unless you do like a Google search or something. But like, it's really nice. That anonymity is like really great if you have beautiful work sitting in front of you. So my advice is just do it. Jump out, like, borrow clothes, use your clothes. Like, if you have the means, like, Net-a-Porter, like Shopbop, like, like anything, Amazon, whatever you can get your hands on, like,
Yeah.
just do it and find a friend that, photographs, or do it yourself. Like, I don't know.
I love that. That's great advice, actually. And it's true. It's
Yeah.
not like that anymore. If you've got, it's not like it was. There were specific gatekeepers when you and I started, and we had to go through.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But
Like,
now,
definitely held me down for sure.
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Both, yeah, I feel like a lot of people have that experience in the industry where you weren't allowed, not allowed, but I guess it is allowed. You weren't, you didn't move forward unless a certain group of people said that was okay.
Yes.
And that doesn't
That's
really exist now. Not in the same way.
not right now, it doesn't. And
Yeah,
and then another large portion of it was like the circles that you ran in and the parties you went to, and
totally.
that was a huge part of it, and now that's not a part of it. So honestly, this couldn't be a better time to
Just,
like really start circulating your work. And especially with people who maybe don't feel like doing a Zoom shoot or something like that is something they'd want to partake in. But people need content, they need ideas, and this is a really good time to like start pushing for sure.
I love that. That's awesome advice.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
I really enjoyed this. You're awesome. Thank you so much for being my first guest on I don't know what I'm calling this yet. So
I
I'll
don't
let
know.
you know when
Maybe calling it, I don't know what I'm calling it yet. Thanks. I talked a lot. Like, that's more than I like ever talk ever.
I know,
But for
except when we're
you,
not together.
I'll talk
It's
for you.
true. Well, you look beautiful. You're awesome. And honestly, any of you who see this, if you, that is excellent advice to follow. She knows what she's talking about. Thanks again, Annabette. It was great having you here.
You're so welcome. Anytime.
All right. Hopefully I'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.